Welcome to another edition of the Mael Time Podcast. I'm joined today by Ori Goldberg, Israeli thinker, frequent guest on Al Jazeera, coming from a more left-leaning perspective, and Asher Guedalia from the Heroes Forum, brother of the fallen Yosef Guedalia, who was killed in battle in Kfar Aza on October 7th. I thank you both for joining and appreciate the positive conversation we'll have in advance. So thanks for joining.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
I want to start with Asher. Asher, what's your thought on this current ceasefire and the prospects for peace in the region as President Trump is already proclaiming?
I think given the situation in Israel, this is probably, again, it's a little early to really know everything, but it's definitely better than a lot of people thought was possible. Being able to bring back all the live hostages while still Israel keeping over 50% of the Gaza Strip under control, and while not committing to allowing Hamas to stay armed in Gaza and actually committing to the opposite, Hamas disarming, that is a huge win definitely for Netanyahu and for, you would say, the center-right in Israel. And I actually would easily claim that this is the better deal, the best deal that the left could have hoped for. Because the left, let's remember, was saying that the most important thing is to end the war, bring back the hostages. And the center-left in Israel, or the more... most of the left, you would say, definitely don't want Hamas to stay in power. Definitely would rather a different, you could call it technocratic, you could call it controlled by other Arab countries, a government going on. So this is, in my opinion, understanding the Israeli, what's going on here, the best deal the left could have hoped for, and exactly what Bibi was aiming for. Now, when you go to the more right than Bibi, if you talk about Smotrich or Ben Gvir in that area, then it has issues. And the issues are that at the end of the day, you go into some kind of status quo again, and you can easily continue from here, just like you did 30 years ago with the Oslo Accords, where you talk about different Arabs and different suits that behave differently and are going to manage Gaza in a different way. And the peace and everything starts. And we all know that what happened from Oslo in those places and how the peace doesn't exactly hold. So my personal opinion, again, I'm more of my opinion is more associated with Smotrich in that area. So personally, if I was deciding and all of Israel was like me, we would not have taken this deal. But as an Israeli that lives in a democratic country and accepts what the vast majority of Israelis want, I understand why this is a decision that had to be made.
Ori, what's your take on that?
Well, I kind of disagree with nearly everything Ashil said, except for the bottom line and a few other important points. And I won't start with the bottom line. I agree with the fact that people calling themselves center-left and left here definitely support this deal. I think that's the case because I don't think there really is a left or a center-left here. I think that there's a broad consensus among Jewish Israelis that supported the war in Gaza, and that will still support returning to Gaza. I don't think Israel can do that, but will support a politician who says that they will do that because the main bone of contention was stopping to return the hostages. But I think the great majority of Israeli Jews supported the war regardless of whether they call themselves left or center right or whatever. I also think that this deal is probably as good as anything can be at this stage. I don't think it's a good deal. I hardly think it's a deal. I think you don't make a deal with when one of the sides to the deal is completely, out of it, not represented in any way. And those are, of course, the Palestinians. But I do think it may be the best deal that I could have hoped for. But again, here is where my disagreement with Asher resurfaces. I think it's a good deal because it takes it takes away a lot of Israel's operational discretion and effective authority in the Gaza Strip, and I think that's a good thing. I think Israel has exhausted all of its options. I think that what Israel called the war in Gaza, and I think of as a genocidal campaign, basically was completely devoted exclusively to that, not to the destruction of Hamas and not to the return of the hostages. And I think Israel needed the grown-up in the room to tell it to stop. And that grown-up in the room, surprisingly enough, but apparently it was the Trump administration. That was the only entity that was brave enough, and it's probably because of the special relationship between the United States and Israel, to step into the breach. And as Trump has been saying repeatedly over the last few days, just tell Netanyahu what's what. I think that's a very good thing, which is why I think that this is as good as it can get. I find it difficult, again, to think of this as a good deal, because I think it leaves the Gazan question basically unanswered. I think that the situation of the population in Gaza still remains unaddressed effectively. But I am pleased with the fact that Israel is no longer calling the shots.
I just want to clarify for the listeners that, unlike Piers Morgan, I do not jump down people's throats the second that they say something I disagree with, whether that's on the right or on the left. So when you talk about a genocidal campaign and I don't agree with you, I just want to say for the listeners, stop calling me a capo in the comments or the advance or anything like this, because it's stupid. So please, with that said, I want to ask you, I don't want to get caught up on the genocide question just yet, because
I said I call it that.
correct. Yeah, but I'm saying, right, no, 100%. What I'm saying is, you mentioned that there was not basically a Palestinian party that was party to the deal. So in your eyes, what is the Palestinian party that should have been party to this deal?
Well, I guess I wasn't wholly correct. The Palestinian party that is truly, the signatory to this deal is Hamas. That's the well-known secret component of this deal. This deal effectively acknowledges Hamas as I don't know if as the single authority in the Gaza Strip, but as the Palestinian representative for the purposes of ending this war. And it gives Hamas effective authority on the ground. It makes Hamas the power broker with which all of the countries that are now rushing to get involved in Gaza, and there are quite a few of them, need to negotiate. So ultimately, this was Hamas. The problem is, among many other ways in which Israel refuses to acknowledge reality, this is one of those. This is one of the main ways. This deal acknowledges Hamas, and it acknowledges Hamas as a permanent power broker. I'm sure negotiations will commence. I'm sure a way will be found for Hamas to be integrated into the PLO, for Hamas to be decommissioned and not necessarily completely disarmed, because that's very difficult to do. And also, I see the way the U.S. treats Hamas. When President Trump goes on record and says, when he talks about the way Hamas executes its rivals on the streets of Gaza, and he says, well, that's understandable. It's a tough situation that amounts, again, to recognition and an acknowledgement. So nobody's willing to own up to it. But effectively, this deal acknowledges Hamas as the Palestinian representative.
And do you think Hamas is an illegitimate representative of the Palestinian will?
I think Hamas is, well, I'll start, I'll be very direct. No, I don't. I mean, I don't like Hamas, and I don't trust Hamas, and I don't think Hamas personifies the spirit of resistance against Israeli tyranny or, imperialist occupation. I think Hamas is, at heart, an organization that signed on to the terrorist path, and I think it's oppressive, and I think it ruled Gaza with an iron fist, and I also think it committed a series of atrocities on October 7th, and that amount to certainly war crimes and perhaps even crimes against humanity. But again, I don't think it's my place. I think negotiations take place between the worst of enemies. I don't think Hamas is beyond the pale. I don't like Hamas, but I don't think Hamas is beyond the pale. And if everybody wants Hamas, and even Israel appears to acknowledge Hamas, I'm willing to go with that.
Wait, before I turn it to Usher, just when you say not beyond the pale, that's actually a separate thing, which we can discuss. But I want to really hammer in terms of, as an analyst and someone who's looking at this, and obviously you're presumably in touch with more pro Hamas angles, being that I've found your work on Al Jazeera and Owen Jones and other people like that. Do you think that Hamas is like a bad representative of the Palestinian people, or would you say that the majority of the Palestinian people actually support Hamas? Because there's always this trying to thing to say, oh, Hamas is just the extremists, and Palestinian people are just the innocent bystanders that are being tortured by them, essentially. Do you think that
I don't buy into the whole this is a war of extremists. I don't think the entire Palestinian people supports Hamas. I doubt you can judge who supports Hamas or not after 20 years of living under in a fortified, blockaded compound under Hamas authoritarian rule. And to be quite frank, I don't actually care that much whether they support Hamas. I don't claim to understand their intentions, and I don't see myself capable of judging them. I don't see a tremendous difference, certainly not after 2 years, between Palestinians who support Hamas and Israelis who support what Israel's been doing in Gaza. And I actually don't think it's a separate question. I think part of the discussion about the legitimacy of Hamas, the important part of the discussion about the legitimacy of Hamas, is grounded in the assumption that Hamas is beyond the pale, that you can talk to people who commit barbaric acts of the sort that they committed, that they have demonstrated the true colors of Palestinian national struggle, that this is what Palestinians will do given half a chance. I don't agree with any of that, which is why as I said, I don't like Hamas. I'm not pro-Hamas. I don't think Hamas is an example of noble heroism, but I don't think of Hamas as an illegitimate partner for negotiations.
A lot to unpack there. Asher, what's your thought?
Yeah, well, a lot of things. First of all, I think I'm a more refreshing, maybe right wing. Some would even call me extreme right wing kind of person, because a lot of people, and I want to point out here a few maybe Israeli center right or center left or whatever you want to call them, commentators which would go crazy for what Ori is saying here and would really kind of lose it, like Aylan Levy or I don't know, other kind of center commentators, where really they don't try to just talk about the source of the issue, like the root disagreement. They kind of don't leave that in the air, and then they go down the line, and somewhere they just like explode and like, oh, how could you say that about Hamas and this, and then they attack that. And you have to really be able to put yourself in the head of a Gazan and think how you would think if you were a Gazan right now. I feel like how Ori is doing, and put yourself in the head of a Jew, living religious Jew, maybe even, who believes in the Bible and all that, and see what you would do. And when you go to the middle of it, and so let me also add this part. I think one of the biggest, I don't know if tragedies, but one of the biggest problems in you would call it hasbara, or of the center, is when you're not able to everything you are, the whole way you define yourself is just what the enemy is not. Okay? So because Hamas does this and Gaza does this, we're not like Hamas, we're not like Gaza, so therefore we don't. And that is the tragedy, because they don't have a self-identity. I feel like Aylan Levy and these kind of people, like Ori, is very well defined. He knows what he believes. He stands behind it. And that's why if I'm a Gazan and I believe that Palestinians have a right for Israel or for their land or for a country, then just like, and I'm going to say this as an Israeli, yeah, as a right wing, sorry, yeah, just like the Haganah and the Etzel and whatever did in Israel, revolves and attacked. Okay, it was different. They didn't target civilians as much. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. And just like there was wars, which were bloody wars in 48, and we won them, then that's how the Gazans see it. And if you don't put that on the table and you try to shadow and lie to the rest of the world and say, no, we don't shoot, we don't use guns, we just pray and the other, then that's just, it's stupid, and it doesn't pass the next level, and then you get called out, and that's what's happening, and that's why it's also not convincing. So I'm going to start with that. I hope that's a more refreshing right-wing view.
Can I just add, I just want to add one thing there before I then turn it right back to you. There's one story in particular which I think really speaks to what you're talking about, which is the story of Palestinians being put in tunnels ahead of IDF forces to see if there were booby traps, and then afterwards being immediately released. Anybody who knows anyone who was in the army in Gaza knows that story is 100% true. Not 99%, not 98%, not 97%, 100% true without a shred of doubt. I can speak to units across the entire army, but the way that it gets attacked is saying, oh, this is the New York Times. Oh, this is Haaretz. Oh, this is... Instead of saying, let's evaluate the strategy, what the alternatives were, what was going on, and you're having a discussion. Whether or not you want to come out like Asher, you want to come out like Ori, you want to come out like anyone else, that's fine. But at least you have a discussion on the merits of what's actually going on. And too often, It's just trying to attack the source and say, oh my God, I will not believe the propaganda coming out of this. The New York Times spoke to, I think it was like 9 different company commanders who all said this exact same thing. And then they're saying, oh, this is just a lie. They're inventing it. No,
Exactly.
it's true. So
Exactly.
you can talk about it. Now I want to turn it back to you because in that spirit, I think you're definitely onto something.
Right. So if you define the bad guy by the bad guy is whoever endangers a civilian, that's the bad guy. Then that's just a bad definition, because you're going to try to hide all the stories where Israel endangers civilians and hurts them by accident. And Hamas obviously does that and targets civilians. And that's not who's the bad guy. The bad guy is whoever is against morality, whoever is against what's right, whoever. Okay, and now the question is what's morality and what's right? And that's where the opinions are different. And if I believe in the Bible and I believe that this land is given to Israel, or even if I just believe in the UN and the partition plan and that if you start a war, whatever, you can have many such beliefs. They don't even have to be religious. They could be, you know, how like Charlie Kirk says, he believes what he believes from religious views, but he can back it also out of the Bible. So I also believe in that in the same way, meaning I can back my views also just from common sense and how I see things in a morality of the world. But obviously the Bible is more of a, you know, the source of it. So anyways, putting all that into context, I think that, you know, that's the problem with Hasbara in Israel, is trying to always hide these things. And what you have to do is you have to say, who are we? What are we? We're Jews, we're Israeli. What do we believe? What's true? What's right? And then don't keep on defending yourself and why you're not bad like them, because say what you are and say what you believe and say what you want and be proud of it. And that's it. And that's what people also want to hear, in my opinion. Like if you're America, you're Arab countries, even Saudi Arabia or UAE, I want to hear what you are. I want to see you're proud of it. And most importantly, I want to see you're strong, because if you're strong and you have money, then at the end of the day, I don't really care, because I want your money and I want your strength. I have other enemies too. I have Iran, whatever. So anyways, that's just...
I will point out, actually, if I can just jump in for a second, that there's an innate contradiction in what you said, because if at the end of the day what matters is money and strength, then what you believe in is actually less important. So I think that needs to be addressed. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying
you're pointing out...
there's tension there.
You're pointing out a good point, and I'll clarify. What we should do is not by what's strong or what's more money, is what's right. That's what we should do. What you believe in, your morality. But I'm saying where the enemy or other countries who are not your enemy look at you, then they're going to appreciate at the end not your morality, and not if they think that you're doing the mitzvahs or the Sharia law or the whatever law or whatever. No, everyone has their own set of morality. It's, are you strong? Do you have money? Can we work together in one way or another? That's what other nations care about. So when I'm going to try to defend a position, if I'm talking to Israelis or Jews, then I'll try to explain to them why this is right, why this is morality. If I'm talking to an average American that's in the middle of this and wants to know, should I be on the Palestinian cause or the Israeli cause, I'll try to give a different view, and I'll say, look, who would you want your neighbors to be? What kind of cause do you want to back? How does your morality connect to this? How would you behave in this situation? Not me and not Hamas, because obviously we each behave how we're behaving, right?
A little bit of technical difficulties, but we're back here. Try to edit it and make it everything better. Ori, I want to just go tachlis, as we say. You accused Israel of genocide in Gaza. If you were the Minister of Defense or the Prime Minister on October 8th, 2023, what would you have done differently?
I probably would have done, well, I wouldn't have carpet bombed. I would have focused on capturing all terrorists inside Israel, making sure the border was secure and that there were no threats to the Israeli population. I would have buried all the dead, taken a week to reflect and bring the entire world to Israel, and set up an international coalition to go out after Hamas. I would not have begun to bomb on the evening of October 7th, and I would not have carried on with a carpet bombing campaign that later ended up with a ground invasion that quickly turned into a systematic annihilation. That was what I would have done differently. I would not have avoided any kind of response. I would have responded, but only after making sure that my population was safe, and after burying the dead, and after taking the time to establish an orderly coalition and leverage the wall-to-wall international support Israel had on October 8th, 2023.
What wall-to-wall support? I mean, you had even the Qatari foreign ministry putting out statements. There were people that were pro-Israel or a little bit more out. It wasn't like you didn't really have wall to wall, as much as you want to say.
Yeah.
You still had.
You did. You had everybody who supported American coalitions against Iraq at the very least. And frankly, you also had the Saudis who don't like the Qataris and really dislike Hamas. And you had the possibility to generate a much broader coalition than I think even the United States was able to generate when it went to war in Iraq twice. Okay, not everybody, but you had just about everybody.
I want to just jump in here if that's okay.
Absolutely.
So first I want to point out, in my opinion, the biggest flaw with Ori's plan, which would be, okay, assume you got the coalition, assume Hamas even said, you know what, take back the hostages, we're cool, let's just come to some kind of understanding and so on, which I think that's where Ori would want to go, but fix me if I'm wrong. Like, what would the end game be? Like, how would the best outcome scenario be?
Ultimately, the way all wars end, the political resolution.
Okay, but Hamas stays in power, of course.
I don't know. No, I think I probably would have come to some sort of arrangement that disbands Hamas. I wouldn't have killed all of its leadership, but I would have forced it to disband and integrate itself into a broader, Palestinian national movement, exactly like the IRA did in Ireland.
It's hard for me to believe that anyone but the IDF would go into the Gazan tunnels and really fight. Hamas wouldn't, just like now, by the way, which I'll point out that, in my opinion, the only difference between, if jumping to what happens in the past month, I think the only difference in Hamas's take from before they released the hostages to now is that they previously believed that having the hostages was a card worth holding, and they understood that card is actually worth giving back because it's hurting them more than it's helping them. So I think with Hamas, the biggest change was just understanding that they no longer need the hostages or want the hostages because it's giving them more damage than good. But are they going to give up their guns? No way at all. Is the war going to continue? In my opinion, for sure.
One of the ways you and I think, differ probably most significantly is that you think you have a firm grasp on Hamas's intentions and on their plan and on whatever, whereas I don't. I mean, I don't for a second suggest that they're an organization of humanitarians. I call them a terrorist organization. I said I don't trust them and I don't like them, but I don't think that, again, they're beyond the pale. I think negotiations are the desirable end of every war. Every war I've ever seen ended in negotiations, and actually, I don't even think
World War II didn't.
I don't think this was World War II. I don't think there's ever been a case where a country has gone to war with a piece of territory that it legally occupies. And Israel is, according to international law, the occupying power in Gaza. Even
after World War II, many areas were occupied by Germany was occupied by many forces.
But there was no war. Israel has been occupying Gaza before this quote-unquote war.
Right, but
Gaza, can I ask you a question?
No,
I want to ask you.
It didn't. Legally, Gaza has been consecutively occupied and has never stopped being occupied because Israel's blockaded and besieged it. That's the legal. I mean, this isn't about interpretation. This is a legal decision.
We could get into that, but to me, it's more interesting to jump again, like we said and like we did in the whole introduction, that you really need to understand where you're coming from and what you believe. Otherwise, I feel like most people, 99% of the internet, is wasting their time in these arguments. And I just wanted to really understand from your point of view. Do you think there can actually be a Palestinian state beside a Jewish state, where even if that Palestinian state can protect itself and defend itself, it won't one day get up and do an October 7th on the Jewish state? Like, is that something you believe?
Of course I do, certainly after these 2 years. And mind you, this is an important point. What I thought on October 8th was not what I thought on March 8th, 2024. And it was certainly not what I thought on April 8th, 2025. Things change, time passes. There's one thing I don't buy into, it's these eternal insights that are always true. This is what Palestinians want to do. This is what Jews want to do. This is the Palestinian destiny. This is the Jewish destiny. Remember what you said about every other country. You said ultimately it's about strength and money and potential and possibilities. The fact that you would ascribe to the Palestinians everything but that you would say the Palestinians are the complete opposite. I don't buy that.
Not. I don't buy opposite. That. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying, as a religious person, I actually think we have some kind of edge in understanding the religious mind of the Muslim religious mind, because just like actually
And now you're talking about
Uh,
now you're talking about Muslims, Asha, and that's in my book. That's even worse.
Hamas
That's
Hamas is a
assuming.
Muslim organization.
No, he's talking about coldness in the sense that there are more religious people. Let's put it this way, right? Asher and myself, as religious Jews, have more in common with religious Muslims than we would with hard secularists.
No, you don't. Well, hard secularists maybe, but who's talking about hard secularists? There are no hard
I'm
secularists.
saying that there is a. I'm saying there is a way.
I'm not a hard secularist. I take my Jewishness very, very seriously, even though I'm not an observant Jew. And I don't think you have more in common with, persons of faith than I do, because I think, based on my professional knowledge, but we're not talking about knowledge, based on my general principle regarding human beings. I don't think you can call any group of human beings, you can think of it as a single entity, monolithic and never changing. I don't think that.
Again, of course not, but you're generalizing.
I'm not
generalizing too much.
You're generalizing. I'm not generalizing.
No. Okay.
Do you believe the Torah? Do you believe the Torah was written by God?
No, but I fully respect people.
Okay, so right. So what I'm saying is that fundamentally, you and I are going to have more in common with people, even in the Christian right, that acknowledge that or that believe that in terms of how we see the world than we would with yourself.
That they
That's
believe
that we don't share something as Jewish people. But I'm
they
saying
believe what? That the Torah was written by God? That God revealed Scripture? Don't forget that the Quran and the Gospels were revealed very, very differently. What do they believe? And how is that faith material in no, that's not what I want to say. I think that faith is certainly of significance when it comes to every aspect of their lives. What I'm saying, though, is that faith does not amount to single-mindedness.
Of course not.
True, but again,
I
want
think a lot of people say that. Certainly, hard secularists say that. One of the reasons I have issues with the members of my tribe on the left is that I insist that Israel should never be a wholly, universalist state, just simply respecting human rights because they're human. I like being Jewish. I take my Jewishness very, very seriously. I want this to be also a Jewish state. I want my Jewishness celebrated in the country where I live. So, okay, what now?
So, well, I want to point out. So you were saying before how I say maybe that I understand Hamas, and you're saying you can't understand them, and so on. And again,
I'm just saying you can't, as far as I'm concerned, any sweeping statement that pertains to eternal truth is wrong.
Okay, but let's just from now until the end of the conversation agree that there are no sweeping statements. It's all thoughts and things that we think they're inclined to do, and statistics and managing risk management. Okay. But I do believe at the end of the day, as being a religious person, understanding what a religious motive is and how far you will go with it. And I think that non-religious people, look, I'm talking on behalf of just conversations with non-religious friends of mine. I have many of them who have a hard time believing what you would do just because you have a commandment or you have Sharia law or any other law.
Do you have modern Orthodox friends in the United States who are perhaps more left-leaning, or not just modern Orthodox?
For sure, cousins,
Reconstructionist or conservative friends, or conservative Jews, that is, who would disagree with you about the intensity of the conviction that religious faith entails?
100%. And I'm not saying every Muslim is like that. That's what I'm saying. But Hamas happens to be the Muslims that actually believe what they're saying.
Right. And that's where you and I differ. Of course, they believe what they're saying, but what they're saying and what they've been saying since October 8th is that they want to make a deal. What you're saying is you can never make a deal with Hamas. And if you recall, I said that about Hamas being beyond.
Of course, right. I think you can make a temporary deal with Hamas.
I disagree.
As long as you're weak, as long as you're stronger, you can make a deal. That I agree with. The minute you're weaker than Hamas will eliminate you.
I disagree. I don't think Hamas is hell-bent on elimination. I might agree if you were to bring up the global jihad or ISIS, but I think there are very, very few points of resemblance between the two.
Okay, so I think one thing that
there's very few points of resemblance between Hamas and ISIS?
Yeah, very few. I think people who say that they're one and the same don't know what they're talking about.
But again, let's just go back to October 7th and try to understand, because the way I view it and many view it, Hamas would be happy if October 7th would have succeeded all the way, meaning Nasrallah would join, Iran would join. That was part. Let's agree that Sinwar hoped for that to happen, and let's agree that
he hoped, but they didn't.
Right, and they didn't. But part of the plan was complete annihilation of Israel, of the state of Israel.
No.
It was titled Al-Aqsa Flood.
So what?
Yeah.
What was the goal?
So what if it was titled Al-Aqsa Flood? What the hell does that matter?
It matters because
the Trumpist movement. What does "Make America Great Again" mean?
One sec. Okay, let me explain the difference. "Make America Great Again" is appealing to something that is not is appealing to a Reagan era phrase, right? And saying no. Okay.
Yeah.
When you're talking about a flood, this is not saying they did not call it re-flood. They did not call it the Kfar Aza flood. They called it the Al-Aqsa flood.
I'm sorry, I can't take that seriously. If you're hanging your argument on what they chose to call the operation, do you know the ridiculous names the IDF gives its operations? Like the bomb.
Right, of course. I'll agree with Ori here that I'll agree with Ori here that of course the name itself does not mean that whatever 100%. It could be an indication. It could be something. But let's take something much stronger.
I think it speaks to the intention.
I don't think
of course that they want to show that they're connected to Al-Aqsa.
No, wait. But this is a really important point. Let's say I accept what you're saying about the intention. Okay? Let's assume I accept what you're saying about the intention. You know what the difference is between Hamas and Israel? That while Hamas may have intended to do it, and there's never, single-handed, ironclad proof about intent, Israel actually did it. Israel destroyed more than 80% of the structures in Gaza. Israel killed.
But you know what else the difference is?
That's a major difference.
The difference is that Israel is willing to live side by side with the Palestinian organization.
You can't
it's true.
say that with a straight face.
Of course I can
and then dismantle systematically a small enclave while killing tens of thousands of civilians.
No, since October 7th, I'll agree with you that how do you say, the Nisui failed, the experiment failed. That I agree with you. I think Israel made a huge change and I'm talking on behalf of the Israeli majority maybe, because personally I might have different views, but the Israeli majority would say before October 7th, let them live in Gaza, let them be Singapore.
That was never the case. This engagement did not let them be Singapore. Gaza was under siege.
But again, it was under siege because there was a threat. If there would be no threat, there wouldn't be siege.
So you're constantly, you have a chain of ifs and buts. Let's talk about actual
No, that's a fact. I have a question. Do you
that's not a fact
at all?
No.
Do you remember how Gaza was? Do you remember how Gaza was in 1990s?
Dude,
before the Intifada?
Gaza has been directly ruled by Israel ever since it was established as a center for the Palestinian refugees, displaced persons that Israel drove out of their villages when it was established. Gaza is a center for Palestinian refugees. Gaza had its own population, but the Gaza Strip is built mostly from families who escaped to the Gaza Strip or were directed to the Gaza Strip by Israel. And again, now we're talking about facts. We're talking about
and I agree. We're not going to convince each other here. We're not going to convince each other here on that point. But I think at the end of the day, if you're looking at it as an Israeli, most Israelis believed that if the Palestinians will just not try to attack us and kill us, then we won't have to do anything. Not a blockade, nothing. At the end, open it all up.
Sure, why wouldn't you?
What's the interest of Israel giving Gaza and then blockading it? What's the interest of that?
Exactly what the interest of the Palestinians, you claim is.
My claim is that
driving the Palestinians out of here, dead or alive, taking their land because you said it's ours, making sure the Palestinians aren't here, not necessarily.
But you don't take their land by leaving Gush Katif and leaving the settlements. That's not how you take the land.
All right. You take the land by what you're doing right now in the West Bank. What are you talking about?
Because
Israel is systematically expropriating, and I'm being polite here, it's actually robbing Palestinian land by building illegal outposts, by sending people to build illegal roads with the support of the military. Israel's doing all of this systematically, and as we say in Hebrew, mamak pitzah, from the diving board, in plain sight. Nobody's debating that. I mean, the settlers themselves are publishing lists. The recent one had more than 100 attacks on Palestinian villages in the month of Tishrei alone.
So I want to say what I agree with you, and I want to say where I obviously disagree with you. So where I agree with you is, again, just how we started this conversation. I think there is an Arab-Israeli war. A lot of it is a religious war, a little bit of it is a national war, and you have to face it. And the war is on land, and the war is on who rules, and the war is on, and that it's there. And I'm not going to argue that doesn't exist. So let's put that on the side and not get. That's just a long argument. We could do it at a different time. What I want to say is from the view of a Jewish Israeli. You see Hitler, for example, said, I don't like Jews, okay? And not many Europeans believed him, just how much he doesn't like them. And we saw what happened. We saw with Sinwar, he said, I'm going to go on, cut their throats. We heard it on video for years. And we all said, he doesn't really mean it. Then we saw October 7th. We hear Nasrallah say it, we hear Iran say it. At some point, any just normal Israeli Jew has to...
You don't hear Iran.
One sec, let him finish.
I'll finish. Saying every normal Israeli Jew has to say, I'm just not going to give them the chance again. Like I just can't. The minimum I'm going to do is believe the words that are coming out of their mouth that are connected to their belief statement, to their charter. That's the minimum I'm going to do. I'm going to stop saying I don't understand them, they mean better, and I'm going to just say I believe them, and I'm not going to give them the opportunity to do it. Whether they're going to do it maybe or not, or they'll actually like you one day. That's not our business anymore. We gave them a chance. We can't give them another chance.
I don't think you.
Yes,
let's not argue about whether you gave them a chance or not. But you're right in that the question is the question of what kind of future you have in mind. You believe in eternal war, at least until you vanquish them, because as you said very clearly, you believe this land is ours and they shouldn't be on it.
Not vanquish.
Whoa, one sec. I don't know that anybody said they shouldn't be on it or we're going to vanquish them. I have not.
Let's put it this way.
This land is ours?
Let's put it this way. As a right wing, even extreme right, a Smotrich associated person, I would say I would want the Arabs in Israel to live better than Arabs in any other place in the Middle East and in the world. I just think that it should be under a Jewish state, and I don't even know if they should have voting rights, just like Jews don't have voting rights in Arab countries. Because this should be.
That's not true. Jews vote in Iran and wherever there's a Jewish community.
Okay, in Iran, yeah.
No, they vote as well. Look, if I pull out facts and you say, well, they vote.
No, what do you mean? It's all dictatorships. It's not democracies.
We're not groveling here. What I'm saying. Okay, I think it's fair to. I think it's fair.
It's very simple. You guys think that it's fair to have a political system based on a distinction between citizens, having first-class and second-class citizens. There's a word.
Just like in UAE. Just like in UAE.
I don't want the UAE to be my model for good citizenship. The
Arabs in the UAE are super happy.
The UAE is not a democracy.
Or you appear regularly.
You were just saying a second ago that I'm saying that the Arabs, that the Jews have rights everywhere to vote, and now you're saying exactly the opposite. And the UAE, they don't obviously have rights, and they're second-class citizens.
I've never said any of that. They're not.
One second. You appear on Qatari sponsored. You appear on Qatari-sponsored Al Jazeera all the time. Qatar has very pronounced, you can't even become a citizen.
You can't become a citizen anywhere in the Gulf unless you're born there. Naturalization in the UAE and in Saudi Arabia and in Qatar is horrible. I don't want to live in Qatar.
But you have to understand the Arabs are not us. They want different things.
And there we differ. That is a basic principle.
And you're seeing Europe. You're seeing Europe go down. And why is Europe disappearing?
I'm not seeing Europe go down. I think that's racist bullshit. Sorry, I don't.
All right, so we're going to give
you have the right to say that. Yeah.
Give me the floor here. Why? Okay. Where do you differ with?
In the belief that some people are better than others.
I've never said that. I never said that.
What are you talking about? You said.
I think. Okay, let's put it this way. I think there should be
No. You said Palestinians should live under Jewish rule, and you don't even know if they should have voting rights. Do you believe?
Yeah, and I think that Israeli Jews or Jews.
There's a hierarchy there. Do you believe that Israeli Jews deserve more rights in a Jewish state?
It's just like when you're in my house. When you're in my house,
it's not.
Then I get to decide what time we eat. But you're going to eat maybe better food than me. Because I'm hosting you.
Who said it was your house?
I believe Israel is our house, and I believe
it's a uniquely Jewish state.
You can't, dude. Yeah. It's not a uniquely Jewish thing, and you can't have it both ways. You want to talk about honesty? Then be honest.
I'm being honest.
You believe in a political system that is technically classified as apartheid, as a distinction between
If the UAE is apartheid, then I'll take
and
it.
again, no.
Is UAE apartheid? Is UAE apartheid?
No. And by the way, the UAE is not a democracy.
Okay, I want to be a democracy for Jews, for the citizens, for Ezrachea. Not for Toshavim.
There's no such thing as a democracy for Jews. Be honest.
You could, by the way, Druze also Druze. I want to clarify because I put a bomb here and I didn't. Druze, non-Jews can also have voting rights.
You didn't put a bomb in here. You just lack the cojones. Grow up there.
I will come out and say,
I'm being 100. This is the most truthful you ever heard someone ever debate you, most probably.
No,
I would say,
no.
1 second. I'm going to come out as the guy who.
You're not being truthful. You're being disingenuous. You're saying I do support it, and then you're saying no. I don't support it as long as the UAE.
I don't think
What do you mean?
I don't think that Israeli democracy.
About the UAE.
If you notice in any of my writings, I do not refer to Israeli democracy. I don't about it. I think that there are inherent contradictions to the state.
Fabulous.
Right. I think that there are clear distinctions between the democracy would be set out in the United States and what is labeled as a democracy in Israel. I see them as resembling each other.
No,
I don't. I'm saying I don't see them.
There are basic principles of democracy. You're either democratic or you're not democratic. One of the basic principles of democracy is equality for citizens of a democracy. If you don't believe in equality,
you don't have to give citizenship.
By the way, of course you do. By the way, it's perfectly all right in my book to say that. I don't think it's a pejorative thing to say you don't believe in a democracy. I'm not saying that to you as an insult.
Of course not. No, and I want
to. I'm just expecting you to be honest.
I'm being honest, and let me continue with honesty. So Saudi Arabia, for example, if any Jew lives in Saudi Arabia, I don't think he should have voting rights for who's going to be the king. Okay. Now you're saying I don't want to be Saudi Arabia. I don't want to be UAE. We're in the Middle East. We're in the Middle East.
And again, you're trying to make a very simple truth relational and comparative. It's not about comparative principles, and it's not a relational truth. It's a very basic question that has a very clear answer. You don't you don't get off the hook by saying, well, Saudi Arabia and the Middle East. So what? I live in the Middle East. I don't want to be I don't want to be a dictatorship like Egypt. And I don't want to be a polite dictatorship like the UAE or Saudi Arabia. Those are not the models I aspire to.
I understand.
What's the model you aspire to?
A liberal democracy. A Western liberal democracy. That is not perfect. That is not perfect by any means, but it guarantees basic right in what is hopefully an ironclad constitution. The United States is still a democracy. Hopefully it will remain so for many years. I don't buy into, just like I would never dream of saying that Benjamin Netanyahu is not a legitimate prime minister, I would never dream of saying that Donald Trump is not a legitimate president. This is what the American people wanted. This is what the Israeli people wanted. That's okay. I accept my position in Israeli society as a very, very small, as a member of a very, very small minority. And I've made my peace with that. But I would never, ever suggest that Israel's elected government is illegitimate.
Okay, there we agree. But let's point to follow things out. One is, to us, me and Daniel probably, Israel as a Jewish state, that is the essence. The democracy part of it is how the way of ruling. Let's find the least bad way to rule.
One second, Ori, hold on.
Don't quote Churchill at me.
One sec. Yeah. At least let him speak, because he's just explaining his position. Hold on. You might not agree with him.
He's been speaking the whole time. He's been speaking the whole time.
We've had a good share.
All right. Go ahead.
Okay, but Ori, feel comfortable. Yeah, I'm fine. I just let's just get the points across, but everything's good.
I'm good.
Yeah. So anyways, so to me and to I feel like many Jews, maybe the majority, which is why you disagree with the majority. Israel must first be a Jewish state. And as we all know, between Jewish state and completely democratic, liberal, whatever, there are some contradictions. Now, to me, obviously, the Jewish state wins in those contradictions because the whole reason we're here and not in Europe or in America, whatever, is because it's a Jewish state. And the minute it's not a Jewish state, then I'm just going to be back in America as an American. So that's, I'm not looking for another democracy. I don't need to be in the Middle East for a democracy. There's many democracies out there. Many of us have passports, and we're not leaving because we want to live in a Jewish state. I do it because religiously I believe I need to be here, and this is where I can fulfill the commandments. Other Jews want to do it for cultural or whatever reasons, but that needs to be out there. That's first of all. Now, democracy shouldn't cancel the Jewish state. It needs to be used as a tool that's used in the best way to be the most moral, according to our morality, as whatever you want to call us,
But
human beings in this century.
No. This isn't relative or comparative or open to interpretation. I don't want to call you anything. The country that you are describing is by no means and in no way a democracy. That's great. You want to live in a non-democracy.
I think it has
Fine.
a lot of democratic factors.
It really doesn't, and democracy is not a relative matter.
You have in America, I think Puerto Ricans, for example, can't vote for government.
I'm sorry. That's okay, because there are various states of being a part of the United States. It's true for the American Virgin. Well, that's not the same. It's not the same. You're not talking. Again, it's not relational. It's not comparative.
And again, I'm not even doing.
And it strikes me as amusing that you, as people who talked a great deal about the way in which your faith influences your life, would be willing to belittle faith in the principles of democracy. I'm not saying that scientifically I'm right.
Wait a second.
That
There's
a democracy is better.
I think democracy has a huge weakness, which is, and many people notice this, which is it overthrows itself. Okay, and I want to point at two places.
Which is why you don't support, you don't want to live in a democracy.
People who don't believe in the Constitution shouldn't get the right to vote. People who don't hold anything, people who want to destroy your state shouldn't get the right to vote in your state. Like, that's just a very normal thing to say.
That's not a very normal. And again, try and drop the adjectives and try and refrain from referring to yourself with the positive ones, and for everybody who doesn't think like you with the negative ones. It's not a normal thing to say, just like it's not abnormal to say the opposite. It's not about what you think is normal. It's about very, very basic rules and conventions.
I'll say more widespread opinion.
No, you don't want to live in a democracy. You want to live in a Jewish state where a person's religious affiliation determines the way their lives look as a citizen of that state.
I didn't say religious.
Religious affiliation. You think Jews should
not as a religion, though, more as a ethnicity or a group. The Druze, anyone who serves in the IDF should get the right to vote, whether they're Arab, Druze, Muslim. They should get the right to vote if they're serving the IDF.
There are a lot of so it's not a Jewish state. It's serving the IDF state.
It is a Jewish state, but those Muslims that serve in the Jewish state,
that's a way of proving your fidelity,
showing that you're loyal.
Loyal to what? You guys talk
to the Jewish state.
Okay, so you do want a Jewish state. You want a state where Jews and Jewish ideals and Jewish values are worth more, enable you to receive more rights.
I think that's what Israel should. In
this state, Jewish values need to be seen as more superior, just like Americans should see American values as more superior, and Russians should see Russian values as more superior.
America, I'm still old enough to have pledged allegiance to the flag. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. America, there's no such thing as American values. American values are a bone of contention. There's the Constitution, but the Constitution is constantly interpreted in new and dramatic ways by the Supreme Court that's in power. And that's great. That's the way a democracy functions. There are principles that are held to be sacred, and those principles are alive. You are advocating for a country that is nothing like the United States. And again, I'm not suggesting that you're wrong.
I remember the United States had slavery 200 years ago, and it was still the United States.
I fully think it was the United States until the South seceded. And then lost the war. I fully think that you are entitled to this opinion. All I'm asking you to do, and look how difficult it is to come straight out and say it. But you don't want to say it.
But I'm saying it. What am I not saying? What should I say that I'm not saying?
Because it took 30 minutes for you to say it.
Say what?
No, tell him the line.
that you
I don't think.
that you want to live in a country that is not democratic, that you think that
No,
your
no, no.
Jewish
One
faith
second. One second. One second.
and the
He's not saying that it's.
upholding of that
Yeah.
exactly what he's saying. You're
I
saying that the
think
upholding of your Jewish faith and according to a superior place in society is more important than equality of rights and more important just about any other democratic principle I can think of. That's a legitimate opinion. Just
no,
say
I
it.
don't. But that's not my opinion, because again, I
Of
say
course it is, because you said
if
it.
you but if you're a Druze and you're serving the IDF, or if you're a Jew, I think you should have the same rights.
Then
So
what's
that's
the
what I'm.
sta-
So how does that fit with what you said?
then
I think that
what's the state about, Asha? Should Druze holidays be studied in Jewish schools? Should there
the
be a
Arabic language should, for example, should be secondary to the Hebrew language, for
why
example.
why are you always answering a question I didn't ask? I asked a very direct, clear question.
Yes.
Should
Go again. The
Druze
Druze holidays.
should,
Yeah.
should there be nationally mandated vacation days and Druze holidays in the Jewish state?
No, probably
Okay.
not.
So again, you are giving Jews a place of superiority.
For sure. That's what it means, a Jewish state. What does Jewish state mean to you? I don't understand.
Then don't talk to me about how this is a democracy and you're using functional.
No, you can have a Jewish
You're
state
not-
with a lot of
no.
democratic. Democracy is a
No.
spectrum. You have to agree with me on that. Nothing
No.
is complete democracy, and nothing.
But democracy,
It's a spectrum.
But democracy is not a quiver of arrows out of which you can pull whatever you like and claim that you're living in a democracy. Democracy
By the way,
includes the acceptance of basic principles. There aren't a lot of them. There are a few of them, which is what makes democracy both appealing and difficult. If you don't accept those principles, then you don't want to live in a democracy. It's very simple and very.
I want to
easy.
turn. I want to turn the question slightly here. You mentioned that you
Yeah.
don't feel comfortable speaking or saying that you understand Hamas entirely, and that you are claiming to understand exactly what they want. Is there a chance that you are, Ori, a little bit out of line with what, or out of touch with what the average Israeli truly wants? Or do you think you really understand?
I think I said very directly, and again, look at how you're skipping between what Hamas wants and what Israelis want. I said very directly that I know I am the member of an extremely small minority in Israel. I don't represent what the average Israeli wants in any way, shape, or form. I said that with my voice, not with yours.
Right. No, but I'm saying that, for example, like I watched some of the clips before, and you were very adamant and convinced that Israel had genocidal intent when it went into Gaza. Is there?
No.
Right. So what I'm saying is that
I don't think my opinion is, I think, more complex about how Israel developed, how the Israeli campaign in Gaza developed its genocidal momentum. In opposition to a lot of my friends on what is now called the radical left, I don't think the past 2 years have been exactly similar to the last 80. Okay, which is what a lot of my friends say. I think over the past 2 years, Israeli society and the way Israel carries out its intentions have changed. But I think that now, and for some time now, we have been in a genocidal frame of mind, and that the great majority of Israeli society supports genocide in Gaza. Yes, I do think that.
Now, is there a chance that you don't understand the majority of people in Israel? That's my question.
There's always a chance that I don't understand. I think that in order to appreciate my opinion, you'd have to, at the very least, watch me explain it, which I've done numerous times over the past 2 years to get a sort of a broader sense of what I think rather than label me. There's a chance that I don't understand. There's a chance that Israelis are motivated by the desire to be strong that Ashel described, by fear, by a need for revenge, by an understanding of Middle Eastern strategy and as one that requires a powerful lesson, like former General Khalifa said when he retired. I just don't think.
Oh God, I can't let that stand. You said you can't quote Churchill. You can't quote Khalifa to me. Sorry, no. That guy. Can we all agree that he should be tried, criminally tried?
Let's forget
hands,
that he
show of hands. Show of hands on Khalifa. Okay. Can you agree, Ori, that?
Let's forget that he ever existed. Okay?
No. Can you agree that he should be criminally tried?
I'm not a big fan of trying people for what they say, not on the left and not on the right. I think freedom of speech is.
What about lack of doing?
I don't think he was at fault. I think the Israeli system was at fault, just like I don't think it was Netanyahu's fault. I don't think this was what Israelis call a michdal. This wasn't something that was specifically related to the specific event. It was about a mindset. And I think that mindset.
I think you actually have agreement. All three of us can agree on that.
I think that mindset has been in place for a very long time. I don't think you can accuse the current government of causing what happened. I don't think that. So, which is why I don't like the
I would say, I want to point out, because
criminal
you said all three of us, I'll point in that the michdal, in my opinion, is just how bad it was. Meaning, would they one day erupt and attack us? For sure. Was that going to happen if it wasn't on this October 7th, a different date? It was going to happen eventually.
Well,
how badly it happened, the Kitot Konenut not having their guns, the Modi'in not being at all, no Konenut. Instead of 1,000 killed, it should have been, it would have been 50. It would have been, instead of 250 hostages, it would have been 20. It would be a completely different story. The magnitude of it is the michdal, not the fact that happened. That's
Asha, I don't agree.
100%. I don't want to get away on.
I don't agree with your
comment,
basic premise. I don't agree with your basic premise. I don't think that anything is certain. I don't think that anything is known in advance. I don't think that anything.
Okay. Like we said, nothing 100%, but let's talk about 90% or try to quantify it at a higher probability than average.
I completely disagree with you. Okay. I don't think anything was fit.
Okay. Wait a sec. I didn't mean to get you. But it's
okay. Let's move on. Yeah. Where were you?
You say Aaron Khalifa and we lose our minds. So anyway, go.
Okay. All right. Let's forget about him. He's really not worth our energy. Let's go back to whatever it is we were talking about.
Well, you say that, except that his brother fell heroically on that day, and this person did absolutely nothing in the weeks and months leading up. So it is like a little bit of a visceral.
I'll restrain you now. Don't go there. Okay. It's not. He's not worth your time, and he's not worth your energy. Okay.
Now, what were you saying though? You said that we were talking about. You were in the middle of a thought when I brought up when. You were.
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Khalifa cut off the whole chain of thought, but I want to bring us back to somewhere where I was kind of going with this, which is we were talking about democracies, about what kind of rule Israel needs to have. Because at the end, just like we started the conversation, how it's going, country, the debates, the thousands of debates and hours and millions of hours of wasting time is all happening because people can't get to this and talk honestly about this. How do you see the state of Israel existed? Because many Israelis love to just shove that in the closet, not talk about it, and wait for something like October 7th to happen just to be able to say, hey, they're the bad guys, they attacked us. No, we're the bad guys, we attacked them. Okay, somebody was suffering, somebody felt injustice, and that wasn't going to stay forever. And you have to just either win a war and rule with what you believe is right and with your strength, but you can't keep on letting the enemy grow inside you and just saying, oh no, he's going to get what he wants. He's just whatever. So let's put that on the side for a second. And I want to go back to the democracy part of it, which is what we're seeing in Europe, for example. You're saying that you don't agree with me, but I just want to point out what I was saying is how democracy or ultra liberalism and just believing that everyone has their right and there is no truth, really, pluralism, is what's ending that whole. No, you didn't say that. Sorry, I'm saying that. So sorry, you could say later what you're saying, but what I'm saying is that Europe's love for left, I don't call it liberal democracy, is what's ending Europe being a liberal democracy. Meaning, I think there can be, okay, we don't know the future, but in 50 years, it wouldn't be so crazy to see England become a Muslim dictatorship. It's not something impossible.
You seem to know the future.
No,
come
on.
Again,
I just said I don't know. Debate him on the merits.
I just said I don't know. But how
what
is
the merit?
You
didn't say you don't know. Again, be honest about this. This is you don't know. You're convinced that this is going to happen. You use words like, you have to acknowledge that this is what is happening. Don't tell me that you don't know because I point out the fact that you don't know. Just say, here's what I think is happening.
Again, that's exactly what I said. I said it's not 100%, but there is a reason to believe.
What you said so it's 90%. There is no reason.
No, 90% I said before about something else.
I reject your basic premise. I think that the great majority of Muslims in the UK, for example, are people who want nothing more than to fit into British society. And I think that the objection to them and that people like Tommy Robinson are hate mongers and fear mongers and are mostly just ignorant, buck-ass ignorant. That's what I think. So I reject everything you've said. Can you Admit
Yeah,
the fact
I
that
admit
it's
that.
possible to reject what you're saying.
For sure. I admit that. And I
Okay.
think until I give you an example, a historic example, which exactly simulates that, then it's, I can say what I think and you can say what you think, and there isn't.
That's not. You can't give me an example like that because that's not the
Look,
way a human being works. You
the
can't
nearest
enter
thing we
the
could
same
give,
river.
nearest thing we could give is Gaza Strip. So in 2005, we leave it in the hands of the Palestinian Authority. It's obviously
You
very
really
different,
can't.
and I'm jumping
You
between
really-
things. But the idea
So?
is that you can't force a population to believe what you want it to believe.
How do you know what that population believes? Do you know what the biggest cause of death in Gaza has been before 2023? What the biggest cause of death among young men ages 18 to 45 was in Gaza? It was drinking contaminated water. What are you talking about? How do you know what people believe when they drink contaminated water? Have you ever been in a position like that? Have you ever been in a position where you had 8 hours of power a day? I'm not suggesting this isn't about them being victims. This is about this certainty, this conviction that you have, that you know what they're talking about. You don't. Nothing in your life has prepared you for knowing what they're talking about. You've never talked to anyone. You've never talked with anyone in Gaza. You've never actually read what Hamas said, except for translations of a charter that has already been updated. I'm sorry that it's.
First of all, it's not true. I've spoken to different people.
I think Asher has spoken to people. I don't think it's disingenuous to say, one of the things I did after October 7th is I went through their Telegram feeds because it was very weird that a lot of this stuff's kind of out in the open. Is that valid that the government of Gaza is putting out years and years of worth of jihadist propaganda? Like that's not.
Is it valid that an Israeli minister called Amichai Eliyahu said the best thing to do would have been to nuke Gaza, as though he was Congressman?
He didn't say that.
Yes, he did.
No, he said that it's an option. He didn't say we need to nuke Gaza. He said it's an option. I remember the quote. It was misquoted. I remember it.
Really, it was misquoted. I'm sorry. Is it how many government ministers talked about Amalek? Do you want me to read you the verses about Amalek? Again,
I have no. You have to eliminate Hamas just like you eliminate Amalek. I'm not against that. Hamas.
Where do you get off thinking that you're better? That's the only question I'm asking.
What do you mean? You think you're better than me? I hope you think you're better than me. Not as in like you have better genes or anything, but just that you have better morality than me. I hope you believe that. Otherwise, you believe my morality. I believe I'm more moral than you.
No, it's not all about a hierarchy. And we're getting back to the principles of democracy. Equality is not hierarchical. The whole point is not for me to defeat
it's about
being better
values
or more
being more superior.
No,
it's about values being more superior. I truly believe my values are more superior. Otherwise, I'd believe the more superior values because I want to be.
Which is exactly why you don't believe in democracy. Which is a perfectly legitimate
opinion. No. Democracy and objective truth can work together. What do you mean?
No. There's no objective
truth.
How is this an objective truth? Because you believe it?
No, again, I believe that the objective truth is what God says, but a Muslim could believe the objective truth is what Muhammad does. Either way, we both believe in objective truth.
As long as either of your beliefs does not result in one person getting more rights than the other, you can go ahead and believe whatever you want. But you believe that your faith and your God are better, which entitles you to more rights and more land. Only you can't say that.
Not more land. They get 56 states. I only get one. I don't get more land than them.
56. Now we're talking about all the Muslims in the world. Because all the Muslims are Arabs.
So pick a 20 Arab states.
Oh, and of course they should go. Why don't you go back to the United States? Why don't you?
Because I'm a Jew. I have one place to go. My parents came from Israel. They came from here 2,000 years ago.
Really? Who says? Do you have your lineage? Do you have any?
I probably could try to find. Yes, we were kicked out of Spain in 1492 in the Spanish Inquisition, and it is known that the Jewish communities there came from Judea. It is known.
Oh, is it? Is it known to whom? It's known.
Historically, I don't think there's any big historian that.
How about the Jewish communities in the Middle East? The people who prayed at the biggest synagogue in Baghdad. They brought some dirt from the ruins of Jerusalem. What the hell are you talking about?
Is that not true?
Are you challenging? Are you challenging Jewish
Is there
presence
any
in Israel?
other aspect in your life where you would accept validation that comes from a historical account that is 500 years old, more than 500 years old?
What?
Would you accept ownership
Yeah,
of
why
a
not?
tract
What
of
is?
land?
Why do
Really?
you think?
Is
I
that
put
what the
on
United States did to the Native Americans?
one second.
They
One second.
conquered the
Ori,
West.
Ori,
What are you
are
talking
you?
about?
I don't think
Are you
the United States
rejecting?
belonged to the
Hold on,
Native
hold on.
Americans. There
Are
was
you
no state.
rejecting? Are you
No,
rejecting
no,
Jewish
Daniel.
presence in the land of Israel?
No, Daniel, I'm not. Don't put words in my mouth. I've already said
I
take my
didn't. I didn't. I
Jewishness-
asked.
I take my Jewishness. You asked. Well, right now, I could ask, are you a Nazi?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so
I didn't. No, but notice I didn't respond by saying you called me a Nazi. I just said no, I'm not a Nazi.
I take my Jewishness very seriously. I said directly, it's recorded, that I think
Yes.
there should be a Jewish state, and I want my Jewishness celebrated in the state I live in. I just don't think my Jewishness entitles me to any kind of superiority, which is the key term.
Tell me why I'm superior. Why am I superior if I believe that I, as a Jew, should not be allowed to go into Mecca? Only a Muslim should be allowed. Why am I more superior?
And again, you're asking me to justify something that happens elsewhere. I don't want to live in Saudi Arabia.
And now you see how my values are more similar to the Arabs' values here.
My faith does not depend on other people's faith. When you believe in God, does it depend on the God of the Muslims being inferior? Or do you believe in God? So what are you talking about? What does it matter what the Saudis
I'm talking about that I believe that nation states should have national rights. And that in Saudi Arabia, they should have rights that Arabs or Muslims have, or even religious states.
National rights are great, but they sometimes are in a state of complete opposition to democratic rights. And while I believe national rights should be protected, and I believe in national identification, and I see myself both as an Israeli and as a Jew, I want to live in a democracy. And in a democracy, there is equality before the law. You don't believe in equality before the law. I do.
You could put it that way.
All I'm saying is that that's it.
Just like I don't believe that I should be equal in Saudi Arabia and UAE. Let's put it that. Let's keep it at that. We agree. We agree.
Let's not. Don't get the last word in.
Because you're making me sound as if I'm some immoral, like a white supremacist or Jew supremacist, which I'm not. Because I don't think Jews are better than anyone else.
And again, I said it very directly. I think your opinion is legitimate. I think you are a Jewish supremacist in Israel. You believe that in Israel, Jews are superior and should be superior.
Right, just like in my house, I have more rights than you have in my house.
But it's not your house.
I believe it's my house. But I want to point out something interesting.
A national state, a nation state, is not somebody's house. It's a collective asset.
It's the collective asset of the Jewish people.
But wait, Daniel, this is very important. This is very important because I feel like
what does that mean?
Again, we're not going to convince Ori here, and he's not going to convince us so fast. Even though I'm always open to be convinced, but we're not. That wasn't the plan, right? Exactly. I didn't try to convince you. You didn't try to convince me. But for the listeners and for anyone else, we're trying to show what really is the issue, because you'll hear so many debates about so much nonsense that is just is just covering up what's the true disagreement. And these are both valid opinions. Ori's opinion is valid. He has a certain set of merit. My opinion is valid, and it's completely fine. What I want to make a claim now, which is interesting, is that my opinions have a lot of similarity to the Arab opinions. And at the end of the day, I don't have to agree with Ori because he's a minority here. I have to agree with Ben Salman and with the UAE and with Syria, because I want to exchange with them. I want them to support me. I want to support them. We want to live side by side in the Middle East. So at the end of the day, my claim as a right-wing person is that coming from the right-wing angle, speaking in their language, you have Mecca, you go there, I'm not going to go there. That coming with strength. Yeah.
You claim to know their language. I don't trust you. I don't think you do.
But Ori, you can't always go there, because at the end, we only know what we know. We can only do as good as we do. I can only do. We have to, if you're gonna try to make,
if you can do only as good as you do, why do the Arabs matter? What do you think is good? What do you
Because we want to live in good, and we want to be good neighbors. We want to have good business. We want to be good people.
You talk to me about faith. You talk to me about principle. You said faith and values are more important than money or opportunity. Who cares about money or opportunity? What do you believe?
So
cares
let me
whether or not
connect
Muslims
let me
can get into
connect those
Mecca?
two. Let me connect those two. Do what you need to do. Sorry, do what you believe in. Do what's faith, not the money. Do what you think is right. But the minute you're trying now to do politics and you're trying to figure out how to be a good neighbor in the state, don't talk in the left-wing language. That's what I'm claiming now. Don't talk in Ori's language because you're not going to get what you want. That's my claim.
Talking
If
your
we talk,
language, which says, I'll do faith
yes.
until I don't. I
No,
have
no,
a
not
lot
until
of
I
faith.
don't. Only
Exactly
faith.
until you
Again,
don't. I have a lot of faith until I don't. I have a
only
lot of,
stick
I
to your
have a
truth.
lot, I
That's
have a
what I
lot
said.
of, except when you don't, because that's the Arab truth. And it's not your truth, but you accept their truth because you want to be a good neighbor. Dude, grow
You can
a pair. Grow a pair.
but
Say it
I
loud. Say
accept
it
their
proud.
sovereignty in Mecca. I accept that.
Who cares about Mecca? How is Mecca related to the principle at stake? Do you believe what you
The
believe?
principle
or
that me
don't
and Ben
you?
Salman both believe in is that when you
Yeah.
have a state, a national or religious state, you get to
Yeah.
make and enforce your religious or national rules. That's
Okay,
what we
so
both believe in, and we can work
great.
together based on those shared principles. At
So
the end,
if
to
there-
work together with anyone, you need to have shared values.
And if there were no Arabs around, would you still believe that? If there were Arabs only in the Israeli state, would you
Of
still
course, I'd go
believe
to
that?
Mecca if I felt like it, but I accept his sovereignty and I accept his.
That's great. So you don't believe in democracy. Again, I said a legitimate opinion, but don't give me all that
I don't
crap
believe in complete
about
democracy. Yeah.
No, you don't believe in democracy, Ashil. Not
I
in
believe in
complete democracy.
I believe in separation of powers. I believe in having a Supreme Court and having. But you can't say I don't believe in democracy when
You don't believe in democracy. You don't believe
the
in
word
the very
democracy itself
basic.
means
No, it
the
doesn't.
majority. What does
No,
democracy
it
mean? Give us the
doesn't.
translation.
No, it doesn't. It means the rule of the people. It doesn't mean the majority.
Okay,
of
I
anything.
believe in the rule of the people.
Rule,
No, you
define.
don't.
How are you?
And democracy, as it was defined in ancient Greece, is not democracy now. Now, liberal democracy means one thing: equality before everything else. Once you have
Exactly, and
equality,
that I don't believe in. I believe
that's
there's a
right.
Kohen
So
and there's a
you,
Levi and there's a
so
Israel, and I
you
can't
are
go to
not.
synagogue and
So
bless people or
so
go
you
into Kodesh
don't.
HaKodeshim in the Beit HaMikdash.
So you don't
Judaism,
believe in democracy, dude.
Orthodox Judaism does not
Hey,
believe equality is above all
you
values,
don't.
but you don't have a
You,
monopoly over democracy, and you
you
don't get to
don't.
decide that democracy is defined by
Yes, I
equality.
do. Yes, I
That's
do,
not how it's
dude.
defined.
Yes, it is.
That's not how it's defined. There are other
Yes,
things that
it
are
is.
more essential in
Yes,
democracy
it is.
than equality above
No,
everything.
there are not. No, you're talking about technicalities.
By the
I'm
way, I
talking
just
about
gotta say,
basic
I just gotta say here before we wrap up,
I'm sorry.
Ori, this is way
You don't.
better than watching you on Al Jazeera. I gotta say, because I actually enjoy this whole thing.
I'll-
Al Jazeera, they get all excited and stuff. They're like, "Wow, look, a
No,
Jew
they
is
don't.
saying these things." Yes, they do.
They really
They
don't.
love the fact that it's an Israeli going on there.
It's a 4-minute interview on a news network show. This isn't a news network show. I
No.
like this better than Al Jazeera myself.
No, I know, but I'm saying on Al Jazeera, they're just like, basically they set up all the horrific things that they allege that Israel's doing, and then
You didn't watch me enough. They're
I
very
did.
fact-based. They're very fact-based.
No.
You don't. Yeah. If anything, I'm much worse than the presenters are.
No,
I talk
that's
about
why they
it
love it. They love it because you come and they say it like they set it up like as like they're the par of
They
ones,
don't-
and then you
they
come like boom.
They don't need to set me up. It's what I think.
Wait, so
Ori.
give me Daniel, give me here 2 lines I'll say, and then Ori will wrap up. If we're wrapping up now, I'll wrap
Yes.
up, then Ori can wrap up after and fix because he likes to, make sure I don't make any claims about him that aren't true, which I respect. So I'm gonna say my main thesis, then Ori will go, and then you can wrap up. So I hope I don't miss any major points
Before
here.
you
But
go,
the beginning,
I just want to thank Uri for agreeing to come on. So,
Sure, man. My pleasure, dude.
of course. So, okay. So we started off by saying how we're not going to convince each other. The point is not to convince each other. And also by saying that one, Hasbara in Israel is bad because it's not saying what we are. It's saying what we not. It's not saying what's true. It's just saying we're not this, we're not that. That's why they're all bad and we're good because we're not bad, which doesn't work and doesn't hold. And in that, I think I agree with Ori, and I hope he agrees with that. So that's how we started. We went on to talking about, so we're not going to argue all the useless, wasting arguments of, wait, but Hamas attacked first. No, Israel attacked first. No, they occupied. No, they blockaded. That's all a waste of time. That's not the question. The question is, how should this place even be? What is right? What is moral? That's what's interesting. We went into that. And over there, I said that I would go as far, and I went straight in. I didn't try to hide it. I said I would go as far as saying, if you're not
Don't apologize,
believing,
dude.
yeah, I'm not
Go ahead.
apologizing. I'm saying if you don't believe in Israel being a Jewish state, maybe you shouldn't get the right to vote. I didn't define exactly who should vote now. I said maybe Arabs who serve should vote, but I'm open to the idea that 2 million Gazans under Israeli rule don't have a vote, just like in East Jerusalem, many Arabs don't vote. I'm open to that idea. I don't right away. And I think the left in Israel, it's most upper value, as opposed to me, who I believe in whatever, Jewish values and so on. The Western, more, you would say, values would say equality over everything. I can't live in a state where there are different set of rules for different set of people. That's my red line. And anything else is more possible than that, even debating with Hamas and talking to them, if that's what I have to do, as long as I'm not going to have to rule over other people. That is the left's opinion. And that is really the big argument here. And I think that should clarify a lot for a lot of people, because people just don't know what they're even arguing about, and we're being honest here, and that's the truth. And the next step I made was I said, okay, given that is the argument, what argument is better off for Israel to come to the neighbors around us? And I was making the claim that actually arguing more what I called in their language, or you could disagree that I don't know their language, but what I called in their language is, you believe in the Quran, we believe in the Torah, you believe in Mecca, we believe in Har HaBayit. This is our holiest place, that's your holiest place. Respect our holiest place, respect our rights for it, respect your holiest place, respect that over here we don't have complete equality in every law towards non-Jews or whatever it is, and we respect that in your state a Jew will not have the right to vote for who's the next king, and that's how, and let's make business and let's work together and let's make the world a better place however we see it. And that's how I think we should approach the Arabs around us, and I think that will only happen through power, because they don't have anything to gain from us not when we're not in power. And radical Islam in general has to be destroyed, because it's going to do everything to try to destroy Israel. I think UAE, Saudi Arabia, and countries like that are people who really, it's like, look, Christianity over the years also had years where it was not so nice to Jews. And it came together to some point where evangelicals are actually pro-Jews, so pro-Israel. So I think Islam can get there, and some countries have, Ben Salman, for example, have started doing things that I would see as that. And that's where I would go from here.
Okay. Actually, just a free piece of advice from me after doing interviews for 2 years. You get a last word, don't recap. Take your 2 punchlines and just shove them through. No, seriously. I mean, you said...
I think I did it more for myself, because I needed to make some order in my head after everything that went here.
You said some interesting things, and they deserve, the drum roll. As far as I'm concerned, you're absolutely right. The argument here is an argument in principle. It's between people who, it's an argument about the future. It's about, also about the present, mostly about the future. It's about people who want to live in a democracy that has Jewish characteristics, at least partially, or people who want to live in a Jewish state that has democratic characteristics. I think I want to live in a Jewish state that has democratic characteristics. I think you want to live, I want to live in a democracy that has Jewish characteristics. I think you want to live in a Jewish state that has some democratic characteristics.
Exactly. As many as possible.
I find that untenable for many reasons, partially because it fosters a sense of certainty that I think is not very different from what led a certain general who will remain unnamed and his colleagues in being responsible for what happened on October 7th, 2023. I don't approve of that sense of certainty. I think it distorts reality. I think where it gets you ultimately is totally convinced of, your awareness, your sense of realization, your whatever. I don't trust that. I don't think I know everything. I think reality is dynamic. I want to be able to roll with the punches. I think that's way more important than establishing certain principles that are written in stone. And as far as I'm concerned, by the way, that's a very Jewish trait. I see that as part of my Jewishness. And again, this is an argument that we will have where Democrats, people who live in a democratic country have their arguments at the ballot box. But I definitely agree with you that this is the argument we should be having, not about who knew what when. These are 2 very different options. The great majority of Israelis like to fool themselves that they're actually great Democrats and they don't really appreciate the issues that you raised about Judaism and its role in public life here. I have my opinions about that. Most Israelis really make an effort not to have an opinion about that. I appreciate the fact that you do. And the fact that I disagree with you doesn't mean that I don't feel closer to you than I do to most of those people who are willingly ignorant of how important this is. And there are a lot of people who are like that. So this is a good conversation, and we should try and have conversations like this as much as possible, not to end up unified, but because this is the way things get done in a democracy as I see it. Exposure, people talking, becoming aware, not necessarily changing their minds, but opening their consciousness as far as they can. That's it for me.
100%.
Thank you both. And I just want to add here, for those who have made it this far, like and subscribe on YouTube, other platforms. My hope is having more conversations like this and actually discussing issues. One of the things I really have a problem with in the existing media space when it comes to Israel and other Jewish issues is a lot of it is just two people that agree, telling each other how amazing they are, going back and forth about certain issues. And it's not really a discussion. And as much as we can have conversations that are, you're not looking, like we said, to convince each other. You're just having a discussion on the terms. And I think it's important for people to understand where people are coming from, to actually understand the minds of people that are discussing these issues. I think that will actually help get a lot further and will actually advance ideas, because ultimately Israel needs to be focused on ideas and understanding what Israel is, how Israel exists, and what the future looks like. And without having those discussions, you really can't get anywhere. And the sycophancy of just telling every single guest that I agree with every single thing you said and that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread is actually a disease. It's not a good thing. It's a big problem. And one of the things that's been most challenging for me personally over these last 2 years is just watching, quite honestly, horrible content be put out pretty regularly, because there's not an actual discussion of ideas and kind of iron sharpening iron. It's just a lot of basically, oh, well, I would vote for Bibi twice, number 2 on my list as opposed to number 1 or whatever. Like, this is not a discussion. So I appreciate that both of you were willing to take the time and were able to have this discussion. And for all of us in the comment section that are going to call me all sorts of names or whatever, because I didn't cut off different people at various times, pound some sand. And I hope we can have many more conversations like this.
Daniel, there's this great Woody Allen quote that fits exactly what you said. He's known to have said, "Never diss masturbation. There's nothing like sex with the person you love the most." So I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. I think that was very well put. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.